Picture this: you walk away from a conversation, and something feels off. Your chest is tight, your thoughts are tangled, and you're replaying every word, wondering if you said something wrong, heard something wrong, or if you're just wrong. It's like your emotions are working against you, whispering doubts you can't quite shake. This isn't just a bad day or a misunderstanding, it's the subtle sting of emotional manipulation. It doesn't announce itself with neon signs or dramatic showdowns. It slips in quietly, cloaked in charm, guilt, or even kindness, until you're left questioning your own reality. The scariest part? It's not always the manipulator you need to fear most, it's the way your own mind can start to bend under their influence. Emotional manipulation is a psychological game where someone uses your feelings as leverage to steer your thoughts, actions, or sense of self. It's not about brute force, it's about finesse. A manipulator doesn't need to yell or threaten, they nudge you into doubting yourself until you're the one reshaping your reality to fit their narrative. Think of it like a slow drip of water carving away at stone. Over time, it erodes your confidence, your boundaries, even your sense of who you are. And it's so effective because it preys on what makes you human: your empathy, your desire for connection, your fear of conflict. Let's break it down. Manipulators use tactics like gaslighting, making you question your memory or perception with lines like, "That didn't happen the way you think," or "You're overreacting." There's guilt tripping, where they lean on your kindness to make you feel responsible for their emotions. "If you really cared, you'd do this for me." Love bombing showers you with affection or praise to win your trust, only to pull it back when you're hooked. The silent treatment leaves you anxious, chasing their approval. And then there's projection, where they accuse you of their own flaws, leaving you defensive and disoriented. These aren't random behaviors, they're tools, carefully chosen to exploit your vulnerabilities. What makes this so insidious is how it hides in plain sight. The manipulator might seem caring, logical, or even vulnerable. They frame their actions as concern: "I'm just trying to help you grow," or "I'm saying this because I love you." And because you're wired to trust, to give the benefit of the doubt, you might not see the red flags until you're already caught in their web. The real damage isn't just what they do, it's how it rewires your inner world. You start second-guessing your instincts, silencing your needs, and prioritizing their version of reality over your own. The first step to shielding yourself isn't about spotting every manipulator from a mile away. It's about understanding the mental terrain they exploit. We're all shaped by a deep need for connection, rooted in childhood, when belonging to a group meant survival. That need doesn't vanish as adults. We crave approval, love, safety. Manipulators sense this and use it, subtly shifting your boundaries until you're bending over backward to keep the peace. Add in self-doubt, those quiet insecurities about your worth or judgment, and you become even more pliable. Then there's hope, a beautiful trait that can turn into a trap. You hold on to the good moments, convincing yourself the manipulator will change, that things will get better. But hope, without clarity, can keep you stuck. Recognizing these patterns is like waking up in a fog and finally seeing the outlines of the world around you. It's not about blaming yourself for being human, it's about understanding how your humanity can be weaponized against you. The goal isn't to become untouchable, it's to become unshakable. By seeing the tactics for what they are, you stop reacting blindly and start observing with purpose. That shift, small as it seems, is where your power begins to grow. You felt it before, that gnawing sense that something's wrong, but you can't pin it down. It's like trying to grab smoke. You walk away from an interaction feeling drained, confused, or smaller than you did before. Your mind spins, caught between what you know and what you're being told. This is the inner battlefield of emotional manipulation, where the real war isn't just with the manipulator, it's with yourself. The most disorienting part isn't what they say or do, it's how they make you question your own thoughts, feelings, and reality. At the heart of this battle is cognitive dissonance, that mental tug-of-war when two conflicting truths try to coexist. You might think, "This person is hurting me," but in the next breath, they don't mean it, they care about me. Or you tell yourself, I need to walk away, only to follow it with, but what if I'm just being dramatic? This clash creates a kind of mental static, a fog that clouds your clarity. Over time, it's exhausting. You're not just fighting to understand the manipulator's actions, you're fighting to trust your own mind. And that's exactly what manipulation is designed to do, make you your own worst skeptic. The deeper you go, the more insidious it gets. When someone repeatedly questions your perception, you're remembering it wrong, or you're too sensitive, you start to internalize their voice. This is self-gaslighting, where you dismiss your own feelings before anyone else has to. You catch yourself thinking, maybe I am overreacting, or I shouldn't feel this way. Your inner voice, the one that used to guide you, gets quieter, drowned out by doubt. It's like you've become your own critic, policing your thoughts to avoid being wrong or difficult. This isn't an accident, it's the manipulator's endgame. They don't need to control you directly if you're already doing it for them. Why does this happen? Because manipulation doesn't just target your behavior, it infiltrates your mental wiring. It exploits your natural tendency to seek harmony, to avoid conflict, to be fair. Most of us are conditioned to prioritize peace over truth, especially in relationships we value. You might hold back an opinion to avoid an argument, or downplay your hurt to keep things calm. Little by little, these compromises chip away at your sense of self. You start adapting to their reality, not because you're weak, but because you're human. You care. You want to be understood. You want to believe the best in people. Manipulators know this and use it to shift the ground beneath you. Another trap is the identity shift. Over time, you might notice you're not acting like yourself. You hesitate before speaking up, unsure if your opinion is valid. You choose your words carefully, tiptoeing around their triggers. You might even change how you dress, what you enjoy, or what you believe, all to fit their mold. This isn't a sudden takeover, it's a slow drift. Psychologists call it a borrowed identity, a version of you shaped by someone else's expectations or control. The scariest part? It starts to feel normal. You might not even realize how far you've strayed until you catch a glimpse of the person you used to be and wonder, where did I go? But here's the spark of hope, that discomfort, that inner tension, is proof your true self is still there. It's fighting to be heard. The confusion, the exhaustion, the moments when you think, this doesn't feel right, those are your mind's way of resisting the distortion. They're not signs of failure, they're signs of strength. Your deeper self is still pushing back, refusing to fully surrender. The key is to start listening to that voice again, even if it's faint. It's not about silencing the noise overnight, it's about tuning into the signal underneath it. That signal is you, and it's worth fighting for. You're starting to see the patterns now, the way emotional manipulation slips into your life, disguised as care or conflict, and how it turns your own mind into a maze. But seeing it isn't enough. The real challenge is navigating the mental traps that keep you tethered to the cycle, even when you know something's wrong. These aren't just tricks the manipulator plays, they're the ways your own thoughts can betray you, locking you in place when you're aching to break free. Understanding these traps is like mapping the terrain of your mind. Once you know where the pitfalls are, you can start stepping around them. First, there's cognitive dissonance, that mental friction we touched on earlier. It's the discomfort of holding two opposing truths: this relationship is hurting me, but I love them, and they're not always like this. To ease the tension, your brain might downplay the harm or justify the manipulator's behavior. They're just stressed, or it's not that bad. This isn't weakness, it's your mind trying to resolve the conflict. But staying in this limbo keeps you stuck, delaying the moment you act on what you know. The trap lies in waiting for the dissonance to resolve itself, when really, it's a signal to trust your unease and move toward clarity. Next is overjustification. You catch yourself making excuses for the manipulator's behavior, spinning stories to soften the truth. They had a tough day, or they didn't mean it, they're just not good with emotions. Empathy is a strength, but overjustification turns it into a blindfold. You focus on their reasons, their pain, their potential, while ignoring your own reality. It's like trying to fix a sinking ship by bailing out water instead of patching the hole. The more you explain away their actions, the less you honor your own feelings, and the deeper you sink into their narrative. Then there's the self-doubt spiral. When someone repeatedly questions your perception, "You're too sensitive," or "You're making this up," you start to doubt your own instincts. You wonder if you're misreading things, if your feelings are valid, if you can even trust your memory. This spiral is a trap because it makes you lean on the manipulator's version of reality over your own. You become easier to steer, not because you're gullible, but because you've been taught to second-guess your own compass. The longer this goes on, the more you silence your inner voice before it even speaks. Another trap is hope as bait. You cling to the good moments, the times they were kind, attentive, or apologetic, believing those glimpses reveal their true self. You tell yourself, "If I just try harder, things will go back to how they were." But hope becomes a cage when it's built on fleeting moments instead of consistent patterns. Manipulators often dangle these moments intentionally, keeping you hooked on the promise of change. The trap isn't in hoping, it's in letting hope blind you to the reality of their behavior. Finally, there's confusion as insight. Manipulators often use vague, contradictory, or overly complex language to keep you off balance. They might spin their actions as profound or spiritual, "You just don't understand my process," making you feel like you're missing something deep. The truth? The confusion is the point. It's designed to make you question yourself, to keep you chasing clarity in their words instead of your own truth. You end up thinking you need to figure them out, when really, their ambiguity is a tactic to maintain control. These traps aren't signs you're broken, they're signs you're human, wired to seek connection and make sense of the world. But once you name them, you take away their power. You start to see the cycle not as a mystery but as a strategy, one you can step out of. The moment you stop wrestling with these traps and start observing them, you're no longer just reacting. You're reclaiming your ground, one clear thought at a time. There comes a moment when the fog starts to lift. It's not a grand revelation or a cinematic showdown, it's quieter, like a whisper from your deeper self saying, "This isn't right." Maybe it's the 100th time you've left a conversation feeling drained, or the way your boundaries keep getting brushed aside like they don't matter. Maybe it's a fleeting realization that you're always apologizing, always bending, always doubting. This is the turning point of recognition, where the patterns of emotional manipulation come into focus, and you start to see the game for what it is. It's not the end of the journey, but it's the beginning of taking your power back. Recognition often starts small. It might be a single moment, a comment that lands too sharply, a promise broken one too many times, or the way your stomach knots every time they speak. Sometimes it's external, a friend points out something you've been too close to see, or a therapist names the dynamic you've been living in. Other times, it's your body sounding the alarm, chronic anxiety, a tightness in your chest, or a bone-deep exhaustion that no amount of sleep can fix. These aren't random, they're signals. Your mind and body are trying to cut through the distortion, urging you to pay attention. What makes this moment powerful is that it shifts your perspective. You stop absorbing the manipulator's reality and start observing it. Instead of asking, "What did I do wrong?" you begin to ask, "What's happening here?" You notice the repetition, the way they deflect blame, the way their apologies never lead to change, the way you feel smaller after every interaction. It's like stepping back from a painting you've been staring at up close. Suddenly, the individual brushstrokes form a picture. It's not just one bad day or one harsh word, it's a cycle of control, guilt, and confusion designed to keep you off balance. This clarity doesn't erase the pain or untangle the mess overnight, but it changes the rules. You're no longer just reacting, you're naming what's happening. And naming it is like turning on a light in a room you didn't realize was dark. Gaslighting becomes, "They're making me doubt my reality." Guilt tripping becomes, "They're using my kindness against me." The silent treatment becomes, "They're punishing me to keep control." These aren't just words, they're tools. They give you distance, a way to step outside the emotional chaos and see it for what it is. But recognition isn't just about seeing the manipulator's tactics, it's about seeing yourself. You start to notice how you've changed to fit their world. Maybe you've stopped sharing your opinions to avoid conflict. Maybe you've dimmed your spark to keep the peace. Maybe you've lost touch with what you love because their voice has drowned out yours. This can feel heavy, like waking up to find you've been carrying someone else's weight for years. But it's also liberating. Because the moment you see how far you've drifted, you can start finding your way back. The turning point isn't about confronting the manipulator or winning an argument. It's about reclaiming your inner compass. You begin to trust that whisper in your gut, the one that's been trying to get your attention all along. You start asking questions that center you. What do I need? What do I value? What does my truth feel like? These questions aren't selfish, they're essential. They're the first steps toward rebuilding a sense of self that can't be easily shaken. This moment of recognition is like planting a seed. It's fragile, but it's alive with possibility. It's the beginning of coming home to yourself, of remembering who you are beneath the layers of doubt and adaptation. You're not starting from scratch, you're rediscovering what was always there. And with every step you take toward clarity, you're building a shield, not just against manipulation, but against anything that tries to pull you away from your truth. Once you've glimpsed the patterns of emotional manipulation, the question becomes, how do you protect yourself? Not just from the manipulator's tactics, but from the mental habits that made you vulnerable in the first place. This isn't about shutting people out or hardening your heart, it's about crafting a shield that's strong, flexible, and rooted in self-awareness. A shield doesn't block you from the world, it helps you move through it with clarity and confidence, grounded in who you are. Here's how you start building it. First, reconnect with your values. Manipulation thrives when you're disconnected from your core, what you believe in, what you stand for. Take time to ask yourself, what matters to me? What are my non-negotiables? Maybe it's honesty, respect, or freedom to be yourself. Write them down, not as a list to check off, but as a map to return to when you feel lost. When you're clear on your values, it's harder for someone to pull you into their narrative. You become an anchor, not a leaf in their wind. Second, rebuild your emotional boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls, they're lines that define where you end and someone else begins. If someone consistently dismisses your feelings, blames you for their emotions, or manipulates you into compliance, it's okay to limit how much you give them. This might mean saying no, stepping back, or even reducing contact. You don't owe anyone constant access to your heart, especially if they use it to drain you. Start small, practice saying, I need time to think about this, or, that doesn't feel right to me. Each time you honor your boundaries, you're reinforcing your shield. Third, learn to question emotional logic. Manipulators often make their feelings sound like facts. I'm upset, so you must be wrong. Pause and ask yourself, is this true, or does it just feel true because of their intensity? Emotions are signals, not verdicts. By separating their feelings from your reality, you create space to think clearly. This doesn't mean dismissing their emotions, it means not letting them override your truth. Fourth, practice pattern recognition. Words can lie, but patterns don't. Pay attention to repetition. Do you always end up apologizing, even when you're not sure why? Do conversations leave you confused or doubting yourself? Is there a cycle of affection followed by withdrawal? Manipulation thrives in ambiguity, but patterns cut through the fog. Keep a journal if it helps. Write down what happened, how it felt, and what you noticed. Over time, you'll see the loops for what they are, and breaking them becomes easier. Fifth, create reality anchors. Manipulation distorts your sense of what's real, so you need external checkpoints to stay grounded. Talk to a trusted friend who can offer perspective. Work with a therapist who can help you untangle your thoughts. Or simply journal your experiences to track what's happening over time. These anchors remind you of your truth when doubt creeps in. They're like lighthouses, guiding you back to yourself when the manipulator's fog rolls in. Sixth, trust your body's signals. Your mind can be tricked, but your body often knows the truth first. That tightness in your chest, the knot in your stomach, the exhaustion after certain interactions, those aren't random. They're your body's way of saying, pay attention. Start noticing these cues and treat them as allies, not annoyances. If someone's presence consistently leaves you physically tense or drained, that's data. Use it to guide your decisions. Finally, reclaim your voice. Manipulation often teaches you to stay quiet, to avoid rocking the boat. Start speaking up, even if it's just a small no or a simple disagreement. Your voice doesn't need to be loud to be powerful, it just needs to be yours. Each time you express yourself, you're taking up space again, reminding yourself and the world that you exist. This shield isn't about fear, it's about strength. It's about knowing who you are so clearly that no one can pull you away from it. With every step, you're not just protecting yourself, you're becoming someone no manipulation can touch. After the fog of emotional manipulation, there's a moment when you look in the mirror and realize the reflection doesn't feel like you. It's not that you're gone, it's that you've been reshaped, edited to fit someone else's story. Your opinions feel borrowed, your choices heavy with their influence, even simple things like picking a song or a meal carry the weight of their approval. You might pause and think, what do I want? Who am I outside their voice? This is the identity crisis manipulation leaves behind, a quiet, disorienting emptiness. But here's the truth, you're not lost. You're still there, beneath layers of doubt and adaptation, waiting to be rediscovered. Reclaiming your identity is about peeling back those layers and rebuilding a self that's yours alone. This journey starts with a shift in focus. Instead of asking how to fix the relationship or please the manipulator, you ask, who am I? It's a question that feels both daunting and alive with possibility. Your identity isn't a static thing to find, it's a living process, shaped by your values, passions, and choices. Manipulation may have muffled your voice, but it didn't erase it. The fact that you're questioning, seeking, feeling that tug of discomfort means your true self is still fighting to surface. That's not weakness, it's resilience. Begin by rediscovering what lights you up. Think back to moments when you felt free, alive, or simply you. Maybe it's a hobby you let slip, a place that calms you, or a belief you used to hold close. Start small, listen to a song you love without wondering if they'd approve. Wear something that feels like your style. Speak an opinion, even if it's just to yourself in the mirror. These acts aren't trivial, they're rebellions against the borrowed identity you've been carrying. They're reminders that your preferences, your spark, still exist. Next, confront the inner critic that manipulation left behind. That voice questioning your worth, your judgment, your right to take up space, it's not yours. It's an echo of the manipulator's tactics, designed to keep you small. When it whispers, you're overreacting, or, you don't deserve better, pause and challenge it. Ask, whose voice is this? Does this align with my truth? Replace it with affirmations rooted in your values. I trust my feelings. My perspective matters. This isn't about positive thinking, it's about rewriting the script in your head with your own words. Reclaiming your identity also means setting boundaries that protect your growth. You don't have to cut people off, but you do need to decide who gets access to your emotional energy. If someone consistently dismisses or manipulates you, limit their influence. This might mean less time together, fewer deep conversations, or even walking away entirely. Boundaries aren't punishment, they're self-respect. They create space for you to hear your own voice again, without someone else's static drowning it out. Surround yourself with anchors, people, places, or practices that remind you of who you are. A friend who listens without judgment, a journal where you can be honest, a therapist who helps you untangle the knots. These are your lifelines, grounding you when doubt creeps back in. And don't ignore your body, it's a compass. If you feel lighter, more alive in certain moments, chase those. If someone's presence leaves you heavy or drained, that's a signal to step back. Finally, embrace the messiness of this process. Reclaiming your identity isn't a straight line. You might doubt yourself, slip into old habits, or feel pulled back by guilt or hope. That's okay. Each step forward, each moment you choose yourself, is a victory. You're not rebuilding from nothing, you're uncovering what was always there, stronger for the work it took to find it. Emotional manipulation thrives by making you doubt your truth, but the moment you start trusting yourself again, its power fades. You're not just shielding yourself from others, you're shielding yourself from the lies that kept you small. You've always had the strength. Now you have the tools to live it.